So Rosalie, it's great to have you here in the studio today. What's on your mind?
You know, where I'm at this age now, which we're all grateful that we're aging, right, in some way or another. But people my age are faced with a lot of, well, I wouldn't call them problems, lots of challenges.
Crossroads, as it were, too.
Yes. We have children who are finally of that age that they're trying to get into a home and homes are too expensive. And then we also have aging parents who need assistance or need somewhere to be where they're a little bit closer and we can help them a little bit more. So that's what my passion's been lately with personal experience and where I am anxious to help other people.
Yeah, helping people out making those big decisions. And real estate decisions, they are 6 and 7 figure decisions. I mean, if you go stretch it out long term, that's almost always a 7-figure decision. Right. And so having some guidance making those is going to be pretty critical.
Right.
So tell me about which one do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about like kids like saving up for their first home and starting off on their own journey? Maybe they're thinking renting is better because they see the cash difference. Or do you want to talk about aging parents who are maybe in a house with stairs and they're having troubles getting up and down the stairs, or they're not very close to their grandkids or kids? Which direction do you want to go first?
Let's go first with our kids that we're trying to help get into a home. It's
Okay.
hard right now, and we've come from a past of low interest rates and lower prices, and so personally adjusting to the new market and the reality of the new market is really hard to accept. And then instead of being angry about it, we need to look at it as how to make it a resolution. How do we fix this and still deal with providing what our kids need? And sometimes that comes from a accessory dwelling unit on your own home, or maybe that comes from helping them with their down payment. There's a lot of options, but you're kind of the professional of that, so I'd love to hear what are your options with helping lending for them getting a new house. I'm awesome about finding them the home that has the ADU in it, or the separate little apartment, or helping them find the first-time home buyer, meaning affordable, that fits their budget and helps them to put money into it instead of wasting it on rent. But tell me what some of your options are.
Well, if you don't mind, first I want to talk about the mindset and how we kind of got there as far as children or people who are fully grown adults now in their 20s and 30s who grew up thinking about interest rates. And, I wasn't thinking about interest rates when I was 18 years old. I didn't even know what a mortgage was my parents talked about paying the mortgage and everything, but I didn't really care about what rates were, how they worked until I became an adult and I had a stable job and buying a house is on my radar now. Let's look at rates, and they're in the 3s, the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s for probably, a full decade of my life. And it's really interesting my entire adulthood up until that point, a good decade was, hey, expect to pay 2 or 3% interest rate, or even 4 if you have terrible credit, whatever. And now we're looking at 5, 6s, and even 7s sometimes, depending on all kinds of things. And so I always find it interesting too, how do we get here and how did we get to the mindset where we are now? And what does that translate into as far as, okay, if I'm going to have a conversation about buying a house, here's my mindset and here's what I expect should happen. Things are not the way that I expected them. I expected 2s and 3s and a house payment of $1,500. That's not here anymore. I'm going to wait until those conditions return. Walk me through that mindset a little bit that you've heard from your buyers.
Yeah, everyone seems to be on this little waiting game like it's going to change, but everything in the economy and the inflation is saying it's not changing. So we've actually had a little bit of a tick up in the market where people are accepting the fact that this is the new reality, which has been very healthy for the market and healthy for my buyers. The sellers are still very motivated to sell. And so right now we've got to accept the fact that the interest rates are what they are, but then also work the other sides of the deal where it's help with the closing costs, or if it's purchasing a property that has a rental opportunity so that maybe your child has that extra income coming in.
Yeah, they call that house hacking, right?
Yeah. There's other ways to make a successful transaction outside of that interest rate. So at some point, we've got to accept the fact that this is the new interest rate and that there's nothing on the horizon that's showing us that that's changing. So what we do need to do is stop wasting time on getting into the market. We're losing so much equity and so much gain by waiting. And so getting into it and accepting it and finding alternatives to making it affordable is really where we need to be.
So when I talk about the renting versus owning conversation all the time, I hear all the time, well, it's all about monthly payment. And I really empathize with that because people right now, it's not uncommon to hear somebody, I live paycheck to paycheck. That's all I can freaking do. Mm-hmm. Somebody help me. Like renting at $1,500 versus ownership at $2,200, like that's a massive jump and that's something you have to budget for. That's terrifying. Yeah. But the way I've had to look at it and help people understand is we have to zoom out a little bit because give it 5 years, your rent's going to be that $2,200 and you'll have no equity to show for it.
Absolutely.
That's a hard pill to swallow, especially if you can't make that transition right now. But I think it's so critical to scrimp, save, borrow, do whatever you can. Don't steal, right? I mean, we're not doing that. Beg, borrow, or save, right, is going to be the third one there. But it's so critical. If you just zoom out and look at affordability over time from just a purely cash perspective, money coming out of your bank account into either the landlords or to the mortgage companies. If you're just looking at that monthly payment, I get it. That's a tough pill to swallow. But zoom out and add some years to that timeline. That's a $600,000 difference over 30 years. Like that's pretty dang important in the favor of the homeowner, by the way.
Yeah.
Because rent creeps up. You hear gurus like, I don't want to say Dave Ramsey, Grant Cardone. You hear the big talking heads out there talking about, no, rent and invest a difference. What they never tell you is that rent goes up every year. And it depends on your landlord, of course. That could go up higher or lower.
Well, speaking from being a landlord, so I own a couple properties, the HOAs go up every year, the property taxes go up every year. So yes, rents are going to go up every year because landlords are covering those costs. So it directly goes back to the tenant. So it's going to go up. So whether or not you're investing in yourself and you're putting money into your own mortgage and earning your own equity, or if you're putting it into the pocket of your landlord, the payment's going to be there either way.
Right. So let's go back to the concept you talked about with ADUs. So if you're in a position right now, I'm renting an apartment, it's all I can do, I got to save money, and you have a Gen X parent or maybe even a boomer parent who's like, okay, I want to help my child out. How do I do that? What about ADUs? First of all, what does ADU stand for?
Accessory dwelling unit. And it is a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful tool for the first-time home buyer, and it's also a wonderful tool for parents who are trying to help their kids. So it can work either way. It could be, I have my son who has also bought a couple properties, and we've just included an ADU in their basement, and then that rent that they collect from that ADU covers more than half of their mortgage.
Oh,
so
amazing.
all of a sudden what they thought was going to be a $2,200 or $2,500 a month payment, now they've got subsidy of $1,200, $1,400 coming in from the rental unit, and their mortgage is so affordable.
So what happens when they want to move out and upgrade? They could rent out the other half too. They keep it, and that income propels them towards the next house, right?
It can. It depends on where you're at. So some cities will
sure.
require you to be a primary owner occupant with your ADU. And so you'll have to check with the city on what the rules are on that, whether or not you can keep it for a double unit. You could definitely keep it as a single unit rental, make it a one complete family multi-generational rental,
sure.
Which is awesome. But keeping it split will completely depend on what the regulations are with the city.
Right. So if you have like a mother-in-law basement in your house, that's considered an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU. Or you could live in the basement and the other half is the ADU, right?
Correct. Like one of my clients right now is finishing their basement and it's going to be all brand new and beautiful. So she's living in the basement. Why not live where it's all new and pretty, and she'll rent up the upper floor. She'll get more rent for the upper floor.
Sure.
It's made for living. But she has the walkout, the basement, the door, all the big windows. So she's going to live in the newer part, and then she'll collect all that.
So it's cheaper on a month-to-month basis, and she's building equity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's a win-win. Like it's just the best opportunity of this market to actually earn equity and make your mortgage payment or what you would have as a rental payment so much less.
Yeah, a couple things there too. You can use that rental income to qualify you to buy that house, actually, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, you have a lot more control over who your next door neighbor is, or if you're living in an apartment, you're probably sharing a wall or a ceiling or a floor. You have a little bit more choice of who that is. That doesn't always go perfectly, obviously. We're not going to, sugarcoat all of that, but you do have more control over that. Like, yeah, I have a friend who's looking for a place. I know this friend. I trust him or her. Cool, they can move in. I can make that choice. And yeah, that's so many positives to that. Because if you're sharing a wall or a ceiling anyway, why not have more control over that and help them pay you instead of your old landlord?
And there's lots of tools out there. There's the good landlord classes that, some people find the idea of having a rental overwhelming and they don't want to be a landlord with their ADU. But it's really not as complicated as you want to make it into. There is these good landlord classes. There's the Utah Apartment Association that you can join where they've got all the legal assistance, all the paperwork. But that's what I'm here for. I'm here to walk you through that and make it more, make it more...
Or palatable, maybe?
Yeah, more doable. Just to make it,
Sure.
It's not so overwhelming. Just to make it into an easier process for you. So that's what I'm here for. We've got to make it so that this is an equity winning opportunity for you and to make it a very doable process.
And you're such a great person for this too, because you own properties. You are a landlady. I think is the correct term if you're a female landlord or landlady, right? So that's really, really powerful to actually have that. You're walking your talk. That's pretty important. So that's great. You have some great guidance there.
Yeah. We, in our own personal home, and so speaking on this from the parents' perspective, we included an ADU in our unit, one for when our parents get older and they need a place to stay.
Yeah.
Then we can have them move in with us, be closer near. They have their own separate living quarters, but they can also have their own independence, but we're close by to help them out. But it's also been amazing for when my kids are first married. They've been able to stay in our little ADU, and then they actually can save money for their down payment on their house. But they're also helping me with my mortgage and my future retirement too. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. You want to shift gears and talk more about parents of Gen Xers and what kind of problems they're facing there?
Yeah, that's been a harsh reality for some of us, just because as our parents are aging and they're farther away from us, then it makes it hard to be able to provide that support that we want to. So having that ADU in your own home has been a lifesaver. It helps our parents who, if you've looked into any of those assisted living places and how expensive they are.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. So the cost of those is astronomical compared to what you can do with an ADU. So my parents, we have an ADU for, and we still had people come in a couple times a week to help with like showers and meals and stuff like that, because I am working full time.
Right.
So that becomes a time saver and important for their own stability. But the cost of that with the ADU is still so much less than trying to find something in the assisted living. So
yeah, it's going to be a little more than your Social Security check, almost certainly.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
Goodness.
And then we know the quality of care is so much better. We're seeing them on a regular basis, which is good for our emotional well-being, their emotional well-being.
Oh, for sure.
It's just a win-win. So if you can put that together for them, let them enjoy their retirement, have a little bit of funds left over so they can do some things and have memories, make memories with their families, is critical for everybody's well-being. So
agreed. So what about those who are a little more independent, who are, Gen X parents who are, maybe boomers or maybe greatest generation? They're a little more dependent. They're mobile. They're up on their feet. They're fully healthy. They don't want to necessarily live in two ADUs. Like my parents are that way. They're quite spry still.
yeah.
And they don't want to live, they feel like they would be impeding if they lived in my home with them.
Yes.
And I might agree with that sometimes because we know how parents can be.
Yes.
But they're very independent. They want to live by themselves.
Yes.
So what kind of problems have you seen as far as senior citizens who want to live by themselves, but they're in the wrong house? They have a, I don't know. Why don't you talk about what you've heard on the with your clients?
I'll share a story. I'll share a story of one of my clients. So she was in assisted living with her husband, and he went downhill quite fast and passed. And so, but for her at that point, that was not where she wanted to be. She was okay being there with him while he was here.
Sure.
Which gave them that time together and had that extra help that he needed. But now that he's passed, it was time for her to re-engage in life again. And so we got together and talked about it, and we ended up putting her in an all one-level patio home with a beautiful little yard and covered patio space. And then she has a huge, great room, family room area. So when her family comes over, and a beautiful kitchen, she can have all the grandkids over for dinner and the parents and everything. And anyway, so happy. And she was so worried about doing it. But what we ended up doing was a reverse mortgage. She pays no mortgage payment at all. She is just enjoying the home and enjoying the space and having that freedom and that independence that she's still very capable of having. So
right. So, but a lot of times when somebody hears the two words reverse mortgage, they kind of flip out.
I know.
Right?
I know. It has such a negative connotation, but it used to be a very bad product that kind of turned people upside down, and so it earned itself that, but now it's totally been revamped, and it's a really great product. So it's just re-educating everybody on the differences between what that used to be and what it is now, and it's an amazing product. It's an amazing product, and it protects them, keeps them safe, keeps the equity safe. And then all that money that they've worked for their whole lives, all of a sudden starts working for them. And it's how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I call reverse mortgages the financial ugly duckling. Mm-hmm. When people first learned about them, I don't think they were bad products from the get-go. I think they were looser on regulations, and I think they have vastly improved. Yeah. And but they're vastly also misunderstood.
Yeah.
They hey, that looks like a duck. It grows up into a swan. Hey, that's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. But I think it was the expectations that really changed. And prior to 2009 and 2014, where some really big sweeping changes in the law came to kind of wrangle these things in, they weren't as attractive. There weren't caps on commissions for loan officers. It was possible for grandma to get kicked out of the house if she wasn't on the loan when it was originally set up. Now that's pretty much impossible to do. And commissions are capped too. Like they have become vastly safer and more effective than what they used to be. And I wrote a book on that. I think I could go on and on about how incredible they are. My own parents have one too, and think about that for somebody who's like, hey, our reverse mortgage is terrible. I am walking my walk. My parents have one, and I am getting one the second I turn 62. There's a cool tax maneuver we don't have to talk about here now. I'm going to say my parents probably $80,000 in taxes by using one of them. But also, they moved from a home. They were in Phoenix, and their home was there. I think it was worth around $450,000. And they moved here to Syracuse. Well, they didn't want a payment, but house prices are higher here. But they want to move closer to their kids because nobody lives in Phoenix. They've got two of us here in Utah, and I'm 10 minutes away from her. She would have had to maybe have a mortgage with a payment, or just, have to sucker that up. But now she has a more expensive home without a payment. And I mean, she went from $450,000, I think at purchase price, it was like $550,000 when she came here. Yeah, she had to put most of it down, but like 65% down to have no payment. A lot of people think if I want to move to a nicer house and I don't want a payment, I have to pay cash for the whole thing. This opens that door. And so if that's what your math is focusing on, you have selling costs because you have to pay realtors what they earned, in selling your house. That might chew into your equity there. But when you go and you buy your new house, you think, I have to buy this with cash in order to not have a payment. I'm on a fixed income. I got Social Security. I can't have a payment. This is your answer.
So tell me this, because my sweet little buyer, she was worried about being upside down, because that's what reverse mortgage makes you think, upside down.
Yeah,
upside
definitely.
Down. But there's all these protections in place where you are protected from being that. Explain those.
So there's mortgage insurance with FHA products, and most reverse mortgages are FHA products. Over 90% of them are. And when you think mortgage insurance, you think, oh man, that's only going to protect the bank and not me. For reverse mortgages, they actually protect you too. So if you end up in a situation to where, hey, I'm upside down, the loan balance is much higher than my home value if I sell it or if I move out or whatever, I'm going to get nailed with the difference. I'm upside down. I'm going to go bankrupt. That's not true. There's a clause in every reverse mortgage that says if you are upside down and you are forced to sell or you pass away and there's a loan balance, nobody owes the difference. They're beautiful. People don't understand that. They're so amazing.
I know. So she was so worried, like, what am I going to leave for my kids then? And I'm like, they're still going to sell that house when it's done. And if you move on to assisted living or you pass away at some point, then that equity is still there. We're going to still sell that house. Your kids are still going to get that equity as their inheritance, if you will. But in the meantime, you're living and enjoying the place that you can share with your grandchildren, your children, and having that joy and that time with your family, making memories. They really want you there and near them for the memories more than they want your inheritance.
Oh, for dang sure.
Yeah.
And you brought up, there's 2 points there I want to touch on. The first of them is, hey, when you get a reverse mortgage, the bank owns your home. Like instantly all of your equity is gone, whatever. They're not going to cash out the entire part. That's not true either. Yeah. It does erode your equity over time. That's how interest works. One of the ways I like to describe reverse mortgages is that instead of your bank account making the payment for the mortgage, your equity is making that payment. Right, so the equity makes the payment, and you can make a payment out of your cash account. The payment is optional. You can make payments on your reverse mortgage, and I know some who do that monthly. That's just how they want to structure it. Great, you can still do that. The payment is optional. And but just to go back there, the bank doesn't own your home. They put a loan balance just like you would with a standard mortgage. Right. By the way, they don't want to be upside down either, so they're not going to lend you out, 90% of your home to do that because they're going to protect themselves.
Yes, protections both ways.
Yeah.
Protections both ways.
They don't want to be upside down either. Yeah. So, and the other thing this comes close to my heart when you talk about creating memories for your family. There's an estate planning attorney that my brother introduced me to who I really, really like. He was talking to a couple who they were doing some financial planning. They brought him in and they were asking about, hey, we live here. It's not our favorite place to live. And he was saying, well, why don't you buy this new house? Well, it's not in the budget, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, hang on a second. You got to think about it this way. You're 65 years old right now. Right now, you can, when you go on vacation, when you have holidays with the kids, you can still roll around with them on the ground. You can still read them stories. You're cooking, you're having fun, you're laughing, all those great things. How many of those do you have left? Now, it's kind of a sombering thought. Like, how many of these Christmases or Thanksgivings do you have left to where you can be active and enjoy the festivities at some point, and this is going to happen to all of us. This is just humans.
Absolutely.
It's going to be to where we're not going to be able to roll around on the floor with them anymore. We're going to be kind of checked on. Like, people are going to stop in. Hey, are you warm enough? Have you eaten enough today? Like, it's going to change our effect. Now, do we want to enjoy those 15 Christmases or 15 Thanksgivings in the home that we want to, live in, or are we going to sacrifice what we have now in order to, try to make it work and so we can have a bigger inheritance? I know what I want from my parents. I want them to have the best life.
Yes, the time and the memories. So my mom passed away in September, and what I would give for her to be back here spending time with me and the grandbabies and enjoying each other, that means so much more to me than any kind of inheritance or anything. So I hope that we can help people understand that the time that we spend with each other is so much more valuable than what inheritance we think we're going to be passing on. So, and while you're able to go and enjoy and being with those kids, do it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
So make your home and make your memories and love where you are at the moment and enjoy where you are at the moment.
At the end of the day, our wealth is, what's the purpose of our wealth? It's to enhance our lives and enhance the lives of those around us, and maybe for charitable causes that you believe in as well. Yeah. it's a great idea to be able to tap into that equity, convert it into cash without moving, or to assist you in moving into the right size home and being able to tap into that to enjoy your life more. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. So. Yeah, absolutely.
You have anything else to add as far as what we talked about, or anything we might have missed?
I just hope we're changing the perception of what we worked our whole lives for, is to build equity in a house, that American dream, and now it's time to let that house work for you. So I hope that we're changing that perspective, that they understand that we're going to let that money work for you. You worked for that money, you worked for the equity, it's time for it to do its job for you now. So let the house become your workhorse. I'm
with you, and I'm personally kind of on a crusade. And I think once Gen X and Millennials catch on to what reverse mortgages are and what they're not, like they're going to sweep this nation like a tidal wave.
Yeah.
And so let's get that out there. Let's take advantage of that. Let's enjoy our lives more.
Yes.
And let's use that and consider all the financial options. It might not be right for you, right? This isn't just for everybody blanket statement.
Right.
Especially if you're going to do this and you're going to move next year. Terrible option. Don't do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's great when you move into your last home.
Yes. Long-term plan, but with flexibility, because it still has that same flexibility. If things change, and things change all the time, our conditions and our circumstances change, but this allows that flexibility too. I mean, you can pay a mortgage or you cannot pay a mortgage, you can draw money out. It just depends on what your needs are, and then we put it all into place and it works. So.
Fantastic. All right, well, thanks for the chat, Rosalie.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, we'll talk later.